Blog Talk Radio.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is a Jewboy here. You're listening to Feldman World Review here on blogtalkradio.com, where every Sunday I ask for 30 minutes a week just to discuss the things that are on my mind and our mind, a lot of things the mainstream media won't touch on because, obviously, the mainstream media is the ever-growing offshoot of the administration. And, a lot of crazy things have been going on this week. There's a lot to talk about. But a couple of stories led me to what's going to be the Jewboy Journal for today. The first is the passing of Ariel Sharon, a great soldier, great statesman, great leader in Israel. Fought with Colonel Haddad of the Lebanese army in the 70s to get the PLO and Arafat out. That's correct. The Lebanese army and the Israeli army fought together against Arafat. The propaganda has been strong over these 40, 50 years, so sometimes we forget. But Ariel Sharon, a great man, and I started reading stories about, certain Palestinians hope that he's going to be burning in hell now that he's dead. There's so much hate. There's so much racist hate for the Jews in Israel. And Ariel Sharon represented the strength of Israel. The famous intifada of the late 90s was begun when he dared walk up to the Temple Mount, where they built a mosque on top of the temple, and where it still remains. And that was the intifada. But there's such race hate, by the Palestinians, by the Islamists, not only against Jews, but against Americans and anybody that's not them. It's racist hate, it's religious hate, it's cultural hate. But we're going to call it racism for now. And then, as we all know, as the Jewboy has talked about incessantly this past number of years that we've been on the Internet, the way the world is on fire. When we look around the world, we look in Africa, we look in the Middle East, we look in Southeast Asia. We had an incident in Boston. We look at Europe, Sweden, France, England. There's disruption, there's violence. There's racism at work. And today's Jewboy's Journal, it's a touchy subject. Gets a lot of people upset. But today's Jewboy's Journal is titled Racism, one of the bases of Islam. But it's not just about Islam. I was, after having followed the burnings of so many churches in Africa by these Islamists and the murder and rape of so many non-Muslim women all across the continent of Africa, I think about the level of hate and racism. And I look at our foreign policy, the administration's foreign policy, John the Fool Kerry, Barack Obama, I don't know, if he's not a Muslim and he's not a socialist, he sure is backing policies that are going to benefit the Islamists and are going to benefit socialism. So whether he is or he's not, he certainly is in big support of it. And we look around the world now, and you've got Iran with this nuclear deal that they're agreeing to, which really puts the world in a big threat. Okay, we've got Iraq's Maliki threatening the Kurds of cutting their funding. In South Sudan, we all know the violence. The rebels are now the rebels. I love that. The revolutionaries. It's George Washington and it's Paul Revere damaging oil facilities in South Sudan. We've got Libya's deputy electricity minister is assassinated. It's ridiculous. People in Mali are dying. People in Southeast Asia are dying over this war, this racist war. So I'm surfing the net last night, just looking around. I'm going on Facebook. I'm going on Twitter. I'm doing what I usually do, posting as many articles as I can find. And I come across a tweet by an African American man, and he states, Republicans won't hear of racism existing. As if Republicans are the only racists out there. It's such an absurd premise. And it got me thinking about racism in America today. who hates who? What's happening in America? Well, I've always believed that hate was taught, that racism was taught. The opposite of love was indifference. Indifference, not hate. Hate was something that you had to school people in. Racism, you had to school them and you had to teach them why they hate somebody, why they should hate, why they should be racist, why should they hate somebody for their religion, why they should hate them for their culture. It was taught. It's not a natural reaction. To me, the opposite of love was indifference. So now we have hate. And then as I look at the internet and I look at the arguments going on between everybody, and we all see the constant race baiting, and they attacked Mitt Romney's family. They have a black child in the family now, and MSLSD, as Mark Levin calls them, I can't even say it right. MSNBC has to come out and make all kinds of, negative comments. They never said that stuff about Madonna. But then I always feel like I need to remind people in America, the people that are throwing racism around and the people that are talking history and all the rest of it, is I need to remind people that during the Civil War, the men dressed in blue fighting for the abolition of slavery and the freedom to everybody in America were Republicans, Abe Lincoln Republicans. It was the Democrats who were fighting to keep slavery intact in the South and in America. And in fact, that was true of the Democrats, years and years later, when Al Gore's father was voting against the Civil Rights Act, when Mitt Romney's father was marching in Detroit with Abernathy, with King, for the Civil Rights Movement. The Democrats were that southern bloc of racism. That southern bloc of racism. It's funny how the history, how everything's been twisted. Back in the late 50s, the government tried to legislate racist hate away, and even sent the National Guard military force into Little Rock, into Birmingham. My father was part of those government excursions, those federal excursions, by a Republican president named Dwight Eisenhower. And he sent the National Guard in, okay, because it was a horrid situation. And they went in and they tried to desegregate the schools and desegregate the area, and it was the Democrats fighting against it. Martin Luther King was a registered Republican. All through the quote-unquote Reconstruction of the South, the Democrats were fighting, lynching, torturing African Americans. Let's take it all the way up to George Wallace, the former Democrat governor of Alabama, who in 1968 ran as an independent, because the Democrats, knew they were in trouble against Nixon, and they knew they had to, the Civil Rights Bill was passed in 65 by a majority of Republicans. Democrats weren't voting for that law, ladies and gentlemen, and I feel the need to remind people of that, of what's gone on all these years. Nixon won that election after LBJ. LBJ, another one who was against the Civil Rights Bill. He was a Southern Democrat bloc person. He was part of that group. He's the one that escalated the Vietnam War. He's the one that oversaw the failed war on poverty, which continues to fail every day. The Democrats knew after Nixon that they needed to fix their marketing image. They needed to fix it. JFK represented a new type of Democrat, a fiscal conservative, a social liberal, with his attempts at inclusion in society. He was shot dead in Texas with LBJ, with Connolly there. Of course, his brother was shot by a Palestinian, so many years later in 68, during that same election that George Wallace was running as an independent. And then Martin Luther King is shot dead. The Democrats, they've been spinning this story now that they're the party of the people, And I see this young African American saying Republicans don't want to hear of it. He's believing the twist of history. He's believing it. And it worries me because I'll tell you, when I was growing up, when I was in high school, we were reading Charles Chestnut, Langston Hughes, Claude Brown, a myriad of others, dozens and dozens of black African-American authors, the people that had gone through slavery, that had gone through the Reconstruction, that had gone through the race hate. And we were taught about injustice and racism. And we saw that it was wrong. We saw that it was wrong. And so we had, even though in high school, in junior high school, I was getting beat up because I was white, because they were teaching, some of these authors were teaching, some were teaching, a coalition society, a coalition life of not racism, of equality, where we're all equal. But many have been teaching this hate, and so now there's reverse racism, hate on all sides, and everybody's got an excuse. But you know what? When you look at me, Mr. Jewboy, Mr. White Boy with the blue eyes, okay, my grandparents didn't come here till after the turn of the century, and that's on both my parents' side. Okay, I'm Jewish, and trust me, I know the trials and experience of hate and racism. I've lived it, and I understand it. But we've been separated. We've been separated as a society, as a people, instead of people of ethics and creed and character and opinions. They want us all separated. Who's benefiting from all of this? Who's benefiting from this separation of all of the people in this country? Well, today, the racism primarily comes from the left. It comes in the form of the race baiting. It comes in the form of the mainstream media that supports the baiting, that's constantly defining us by our race, that's constantly defining problems by race. It comes from the militant education that's being taught. Okay? Our children, my children, grew up with posters on their walls of their heroes, Michael Jordan, Shaq, actors, singers, musicians, artists, writers. No racism here. White America was trying to look past it, the majority of white America. Laws were passed, okay? Judges were appointed to make sure that the civil rights, the equality of everybody was there for everybody. But now what do we have? We have groups of people that are taught to hate other groups. Taught to hate other groups. Because let's go back. It's the effort and ethics and creed and character that defines a man or a woman, not race. And religion is a spiritual choice. Which God do I believe in? Or do I believe in God? You have that choice in America, okay? Because anyone who believes in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and a free market economy could never condone racism, culturalism, religious hate. It doesn't fit. America made its mistakes, and it's made its corrections. It's made a lot of corrections. But racism, the discussion of it, the idea of it scares people because it's a great motivator, and it's a great separator of a culture of people. And the government's the one that seems to be benefiting from the race hate, from the separation of people not being able to come together as one. Because hate's being taught to black America. Hate's being taught to white America. Hate's being taught. Okay, in the Islamist movement, one of the bases of this whole Islamist movement you have now is racism. They hate Jews. They hate Christians. Their whole philosophy based on race hate. They kill people. They maim people. They terrorize. All over the world, we've talked about it this year, that the world's on fire. And it's being driven by a racism, by a hate, by a culturalism, by a religious hate that's taught. Because the opposite of love is indifference, not hate. Hate is taught. And we've got to wake up as people on all sides, and we've got to get the message out there that, there's equality in America. We're not living in Birmingham and Little Rock of the 50s. This is a place now where, 30 years ago, Jesse Jackson comes out and calls New York Hymietown. This is a place now where the Black Panthers stand outside of a voting area and try to intimidate because they're taught this hate. And it's on all sides. The Klan taught to hate. We've got to get past it. We've got to get past it as a country, as a people. And we have to see that when we debate issues, of Obamacare, when we debate the issues of taxation, of entitlements, we have to remember that people are fighting to find the benefits for the majority, for the most people. Now, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, was written to protect the individual from the mob, to protect the people from the government. That's what it stands for. That's a federal republic. Don't let the racist lies fool you. Okay? Because these Democrats that are selling, that keep telling you that it's them, that it's them, that it's them, they're no better. They're worse. Theirs is a closet racism. And as far as, and that's the Jewboy Journal for today. Phones are open, 347-202-0433. I'd love to hear from you about Ariel Sharon's passing, about Governor Christie's Bridgegate, about the IRS, Benghazi, all the other things they haven't investigated while the Justice Department now is getting all over Christie. You want to talk about the anniversary of the war on poverty, please call in. But one thing I'd really like to talk about that's really aggravating to me, and especially since I'm a Jersey guy, this whole thing with this Bridgegate and Governor Christie. And I don't know if he knew. I mean, they created a traffic jam. People were in traffic, but nobody died like at Benghazi. Okay? And votes weren't stolen like the collusion between the IRS and the Federal Election Commission. Lois Lerner feeding the Federal Election Commission Democrat groups information. How about the NSA spying? How about Fast and Furious? To me, it's absolutely ridiculous that suddenly the Justice Department is all interested in Governor Christie and whether he knew about a traffic jam or not. And they haven't even vetted Benghazi. No one was fired. Christie fired somebody. Christie came up and took responsibility. Obama's never taken responsibility. Hillary Clinton, John Kerry, they've never taken responsibility for Benghazi. We all know people died. We all know we were lied to. That was something I read today too. That if Christie knew, he should be driven out of office right now because Christie, as a fiscal conservative, one thing that he did that was great in this state was he took on the teachers union, he took on the government unions, and he won, and he beat them up pretty good. They thought they had it. They were running around arrogant, and he took them. He's a fiscal conservative. He's as good as we could probably get in this state, and I got to hand it to him. He won a lot of battles early. So, of course, they're circling the wagons to attack him. Of course they are. This is a blue state, New Jersey. I live in Montclair, New Jersey, probably one of the bluest towns in the universe, okay? For 5 years, they sat at the corner down here on Church Street, calling Bush a Nazi and holding up signs to end this war and to end that battle and to close this place and that place. And it's just, this isn't a bastion of left-wing politics, even though the majority of these counties didn't vote for Cory Booker. The majority of the counties voted for the other Senate candidate, Lonigan, who was my man from Bogota, New Jersey. And, it's the usual situation. You look at the national map, all the big cities. Well, Jersey's the same thing. Passaic, Patterson, Newark, Essex County, where I live, these areas. And Christie's done really good. But how can the Justice Department be sicked on the New Jersey governor over a traffic jam debate because that's what I think it is. This is kind of, in comparison to 4 men dying in Benghazi because of bad decisions. Who's responsible for that? Where's the investigations for that? Where's the concern for that? Well, how about them stealing the election? Because from 2010 until the election of 2012, the IRS was tying up the money of conservative action groups, Tea Party groups, pro-Israel groups, tying up their money, tying up their 501(c)(3) or 4C classifications, which would have helped their funding. It stopped them from organizing rallies on the street. It stopped them from putting up radio ads. It stopped them from TV ads. It stopped them from having the organizational funding to back candidates. Okay, and the Obama administration knew after 2010 that they better do that or there'd be more Tea Party people in the government. So they went after them. When are they going to answer to that with the IRS Federal Election Commission collusion to stop the conservatives, to steal votes? They stole votes. You want to talk about voter suppression? It's not racial voter suppression going on now. A voter ID card has nothing to do with race. It just proves that you're a citizen. The real voter suppression was done by our federal government against opponents of Barack Obama. When are they going to deal with that? No, they're going to go after Governor Christie because they got a memo that says, I could see that. I could see that when I'm at work one day and, say my department, logistics, and another department, say manufacturing, has been having issues, say, with marketing. And I could see saying something stupid like, "Oh, we're gonna tie up, all these samples that are coming in that are supposed to go to marketing this week." Just some stupid comment. But really, seriously, does this raise to the level of gun running into Mexico? Does this raise to the level where our federal government was dispersing firearms to drug runners, to drug dealers, to cartels, to gangs in Mexico, where Americans have been killed with those guns, and Mexican citizens have been? Where's that investigation, Mr. Fast and Furious? And somebody that I love to listen to lately, I just love her, Judge Jeanine Pirro. She rips to partisan Obama because he's already investigating Christie while doing nothing about Benghazi. And this is outrageous. This just shows the collusion between this federal government and the mainstream media. It sounds like National Socialism to me. It sounds like crony socialism to me. Doesn't it sound like that to you? Where the government is one, doing the unconstitutional act of forcing the American people to buy a product called Obamacare, that the insurance industry, that's been the problem with our health care, they're the ones that, their business model is the one that defined pre-existing conditions. They've been given more power and more money, guaranteed money, because the government said that people have to get insurance, so you have to call an insurance company and register. It's a financial windfall for insurance companies. It's unconstitutional for the federal government to tell any citizen of any state they have to buy a product. But here we sit. Where's that investigation? Where's that investigation into Obamacare? And here they are chasing Christie around Bridgegate. That's all they talk about. It's incredible. It's incredible. How about Susan Rice lying? How about John Kerry and Hillary Clinton lying to the public? How about Barack Obama coming out about some video? The guy that made that video, I believe he's still in jail in the state of Washington someplace for exercising his free speech in America about the Prophet Muhammad. He's still in jail. The government's done no investigation. They're getting over. You know why they're getting over Christie? Because he keeps polling better than Hillary Clinton. Because he keeps polling better than almost all the other Republicans. So if you don't think that the teachers' unions and the other unions are circling up the wagons, trying to bury him over this stupid argument, and that the mainstream media is going to help him, because every 10 minutes there's a Christiegate, Bridgegate everywhere. It's on all the front pages. Even New York Post, that I consider more conservative of all the rags we have around this area, is running it on the front cover. It's an outrage. How about the NSA snooping on Americans? Patriot Act was put in to pick up chatter coming from overseas to Americans to stop bombings. This administration used it to track their opponents. That could also help them win the 2012 election by getting inside information, by being ahead of the curve, by spying. So I think this Governor Christie thing is a lot of hoopla, and I think most of my listeners realize that. That's no surprise. I mean, Giuliani's come out defending Christie. A bunch of people have come out defending Christie. Even Mr. Rhino King Karl Rove says that this scandal won't sink Christie. But you know what? I never thought that Christie might be our candidate. You know, there's a lot of other stronger, overall conservatives. But let's face it, folks, when this election comes in 2014, we've got to vote together as a bloc. We've got to vote as a huge bloc. We'll never stop this Obama train. We'll never stop. We'll never stop the divisiveness, the class warfare, the race baiting, the lies. It'll never end unless we vote as a bloc. And that means you Republicans. That means you Libertarians. That means you Reagan Democrats. That means you conservatives, constitutionalists. We got to vote together. If it's Christie, if it's Cruz, it doesn't matter at this point, really. We have got to change the face of the Senate this year and of the presidency in 2016. 2014, we have got to vote together. We have got to stop our infighting. We have got to stop the infighting between the Tea Party and the Republicans and the independent conservatives that are in the government. We have to pull together. Do we have the capability, Republicans, to have a united front, to put together a cohesive plan of positive change, because that's what America needs now is the positive change, and we need to vote as a bloc. So all my listeners out there, you need to spend from now until the next elections for the Senate and the House to get the word out that we have to vote together. You know, the small differences in certain economic issues and certain social issues have to take a back seat to stopping this National Socialist train that is charging down our tracks, that is indoctrinating our children with Common Core, that is indoctrinating our young people with propaganda and lies, which is slowly degrading our economy, degrading our society, and turning us all against each other with their class warfare, their racist hate, their cultural hate. As we watch the Islamist revolution succeed left and right with the support with our government's foreign policy, and like I said, whether Barack's a Muslim or a socialist or not, he's supporting pro-Islamist programs and policies, and he's supporting pro-socialist programs and policies that are going to hurt our nation. So we've got to pull it together, okay? Look at that war on poverty, right? 50 years of the war on poverty. How come the same people in the inner city we're supposed to help are still in the inner city and still living in poverty? What's the exit strategy, Mr. Obama? What's the exit strategy, all my Democrat friends? For the war on poverty, we spend billions and billions and billions, and there's no effect. So where's that money really going? Like, where's all the money? Like, where's our Social Security money? It's time to stop this Obama socialist train. Okay? We're here defending the employed class because the employed class, and I'm not talking about people that work in the government, and I'm certainly not talking about the unemployed. We're the employed class, and all of the weight of everything comes down on our backs every time, and the government fails to do what they said they're going to do every single time. All right, listen, join me every Sunday, please. Feldman World Review, blogtalkradio.com, 30 minutes a week. That's what I'm asking for. Next week, please write this number down, 347-202-0430 to call in. Give me your opinion. I want you to go on Facebook.com/Feldman World Review, Feldman World Group Newswatch, or Jewboy Feldman, and come and join us. Join this revolution that's happening. We're going to take back the Senate. We're going to keep the House. We're going to drive forward and save the economy. Have a great Sunday. On to football. January 12th, 2014, Feldman World Review. Have a great day.
Beautiful love and mercy more than life. America, America, make God thy gold refined. Till all success be nobleness and every gain divine. And you know when I was in school, we used to sing it something like this. Listen here. Oh,